All right. So here, Grand Prix in Switzerland?
In Switzerland, yes, Swiss Grand Prix. And it was one of the decisive games. I played the English opening, and he played a very modern line for black also, that I played also myself against Karpov, against Kochino, and so on. You know, a lot of good games with black. This I played with black all the time, you know, Ullman and many others, Ljubojevic and so. And was very modern until now is playable for white, you know, and for black, you see.
And the Mascarinas?
The so-called hedgehog for black. This is the name of this variation. Mascarinas comes from Philippines. He was one of the best players from the Philippines. So, okay, after bishop b7, what did I play? d4, no, castle. Yeah, castle, a6, and now d4, yeah. Now we transpose in the normal line, you see. Okay, so the best way is to take in d4, queen takes. If you take with the knight, you have nothing with white, you see. We had our game against Damljanovic and so on. Black has immediately good game, and finally, without too many problems, equality, you know, for black. So, okay, now we have to be careful with white. Move order is also very important, yeah. So, rook d1, bishop e7, b3, knight bd7, e4 now.
Yes.
And now he played, I think, castle. Now, this is a little bit risky. The best move was to play immediately queen b8, as long as I know. I played in one game against a Dorian or so, with black queen b8, which is very sharp, but gives probably more or less equality for black, you know. Mm-hmm. But by playing castle, white will be always a little bit better, all the time, you see.
Right.
Move order, you'll see. Now, after castle, bishop a3 is very strong, and now, from now on, everything is almost forced. He has to play knight c5 because we are threatening to take immediately the pawn in this d6 now.
Yes.
So knight c5, and after knight c5, we have time to react immediately by playing e5. Okay, so he took in e5, I took the queen. Yeah, very simple, but very good. And now knight e5, a little bit better all the time because of this unpleasant pin for the moment, you see. So he had to take in g2 now.
Yes.
I took with the king, and now he played bishop f8. Now, by playing bishop f8, he goes out of this pin, and yes, white has to do something very quickly. But how can you demonstrate that white is clearly better here? If you look at the position, it's more or less simply equal, no? But white has an edge here all the time. So I took in c5, very good. Now he has to take with the bishop, because if he takes with the pawn structure is bad.
Yeah.
The knight in a4 will be very strong, and we control, you know, all over the board, everything, you see. So, okay, knight a4, more or less. So again, knight e4 is probably forced, because after bishop d4, the combination is very clear and very simple for white. Let's say, if instead of knight e4, bishop d4. Yeah. After bishop d4, knight c5, knight c6, pardon, knight c6. Now he has to take in a1, yeah? Has to take in a1, otherwise he loses a piece, no?
Yes.
Now knight takes d8. Now the only move is b5, otherwise you lose the pawn. Yeah.
b5, yes.
b5, yeah. So now knight b6, yeah. Rook b8, no. Knight c6, and you resign with black.
Because you have checked.
You attack the rook, you attack the bishop from a1, you can resign.
Yes.
So you see, white has initiative. And by playing like this, always better, you know, better game all the time, you see. So, okay, knight e4. Finally, he found the good move. After knight e4, I took in c5. He took back. And here, knight c6. Okay, and after knight c6, what did he play? He took there. I took with the rook. And now we see the result. If he moves the rook, the endgame is very unpleasant for black, you know. So if he moves, for instance, rook c8 or something, it's impossible to go knight e7 check. If you move, the only move is rook e8. And after rook e8, you go, for instance, rook d7 or even f3, gives a big edge for white, you know. You control the D line. It's very important, you see. So, okay, now he tried knight c3. It seems that, he keeps some counterplay.
Some pressure.
Yeah, but it's unpleasant because the end game now is very bad for black. We'll have very strong idea against this knight from c3. Finally, he loses the knight from c3. It's almost unbelievable, but it happened, So we see what happened in our game.
No,
it's more or less forced. After king f3, the white king comes, tries to attack immediately the knight. And you have no defense against this, This is, simple and very clear. So rook c8, knight e5. Now what to do? He comes with f6 now. Now knight d3, very important. Now you can't move too much the rook because you lose simply the pawn from c5 and you lose any endgame, you see. So king e7, normal, no? Now you have time to attack the knight. Where to put this knight? Only in b1, no?
Yeah.
In d1 you lose immediately after rook, king e2. Knight d1, king e2, and lose the knight, So knight b1, and now after knight b1, king e3, okay. So now g5 has to move something, no? Well, rook c1, we attack the knight, knight a3, the only move, and now we come with our king, king d2. There is threatening simply, king c3, king b2, and he loses the knight. It's unbelievable, no?
Yes.
Rook and knight against rook and knight. We don't have too many pieces, but one of these pieces are lost, So after king c3, well, here he to resign already, So now king b2, and he has to give the knight somehow, you see. So e4, the only move again, and the simplest move, knight e1. Okay,
and
so...
he resigned.
No, he played a little bit more, but he resigned in a few moves.
Yeah. Nice.
Until the end is very instructive. Well, he continued because of the time trouble, but until here was very instructive. And very simply, if you look at the position, it's very simple to play with white. Move by move, like this. Why? Because you are simply better and it has no counterplay, Well, the end game, the final moves, will be instructive to demonstrate how you can win by the easiest way, you see. We can see it, if you want. We have the rest of the moves, no?
No,
or not?
That's it.
Here he's done. Now, yes. I think he played a little bit more, but he's done.
It's not recorded.
Yeah, it's okay. But it was very instructive, no? I mean, rook and knight against rook and knight.
And the knight,
very simple, but the knight is trapped,
Because he forced it.
He forced a little bit too much, trying to get some counterplay,
Yes.
This was the idea from knight c3, to get some counterplay.
Yeah.
Because if he went back to f6, white had the d file and simply better all the time and without any problem, So he wanted to have some counterplay, and the result was this one,
This. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Gheorghiu.
It happened. A small chance like this.
Nice.
Yeah.